Good day, everyone. My name is George Johnson. I am not a CPA. I'm not a tax advisor, but I want to share some information with you talking about generational wealth building. And the vehicle that I'm going to talk about using is the Custodial ROTH IRA, Individual Retirement Arrangement. I know some people say individual retirement account, but that's incorrect according to the IRS tax laws. Custodial Roth IRAs, it is a tremendous vehicle to use to build wealth. Back in 2020, I was listening to a senator, and everybody else was listening to media, social media, in one way or the other, multifaceted platforms, podcasts, just a lot of stuff because everybody was pretty much home, except for me. I was working every day because of the lockdown and the COVID restrictions, everything, which was proper and right, I believe, to try to curb this pandemic that had plagued the world. So I was trying to get people isolated to get it under control. I think it was a good thing. We learned a lot of, we didn't do everything perfect, but I think everything was good. So not to get into political stuff, but it's just reality. So the senator said we can make every child a millionaire, starting with the newborn babies, a one-time contribution of $6,150. And I was like, okay, let me tune in and see what he's talking about. Because I had just had grandbabies, twins, and I was like, how is he figuring this out? He said a one-time contribution, put it into a trust or something that they can't touch it, $6,150. And I said, okay, let me break this down. I got out I went to investor.com. That's what I use for a compound interest calculator. And I said, okay, let me put in 8% on that money, compound growth. And he was right. At 67 years old, that child will have, at 8% interest, compound interest, would have $1.1 million. A little bit north of $1 million. And I was like, whoa. So then I went back in and I said, well, what about 10%? Because a lot of people use 10%, because the stock market has been averaging pretty much about 12%, and especially index funds. And I push index funds because low fees. And I put in 10% on this $6,150 up until the age of 67. And it came out to $3 million. And I was like, okay, this money is jumping. So then I went up to my favorite interest rate of return, which is 12%, because a lot of my money that I've been working with has been higher than 12%. And so I just averaged 12%. That money went up to $12 million. This is a one-time contribution into an index fund that I'm looking at to change the whole financial outlook of a generation. So I did that, and I was like, wow. Now, of course, it didn't happen because it was brushed off. But I think it illuminated my mind to say, okay, my twin grandbabies. I said, I'm not going to do $6,150, but I am going to do four figures. And I did it. And just into a brokerage account, and gave it to my son to open up whatever one he wanted to do it in, but it needed to be there to not be touched. And that was very clear. And of course, he's a businessman, so he understands. He's got his MBA. And he also works for corporate America in one of the top financial banking systems in America. And I will not name him because I don't get any royalty from them, but he gets paid very well. So anyway, I put that money in there, and I was like, just just watching it, and it will be pretty significant when they reach that age of 67. And then I looked in 2021, and Congress, they voted on this child tax credit they normally get, but they said, no, we're going to pay out. And they did it between $250 and $300, depending on the age. There was an age group. And they did that for about 4 or 5 months. But the round total that I used was, and this is the average, was $1,600 that was paid out for each child under the age of 18 years old. And like I said, 0 to about 6 or 5, it was a certain amount, and then from 6 to 17 was a certain amount that was paid out for people, who were making below whatever the cap was. And I just averaged that money out. That $1,400. Say you had one child, I averaged that out, and it came out to 1.2. And this was based off of 12% interest. I like to use 12% interest. That's just me. And if they just grabbed that money and just left it in there for 60 years or whatever their age was, 5 to 65, that money would have grown compound growth to $1.2 million that the government gave you. This is not money you work for. And I passed this information on to family members that had children, and I showed them exactly, where to go, which was fidelity.com, and I gave them, I recommended a mutual fund that I know have low fees, and I don't think anything was done with that, but I passed on the information. So today we're going to talk about the Custodial Roth IRA. So basically, in order for a child from the age of 17 and under, even to a newborn, they must have earned income. And the beauty of it is, if you have a business, and we're going to talk from this angle for the rest of the time, if you have a business and you employ your child, and it's got to be age appropriate of the amount, and the justification, you get a folder just like when you go to a job, you have a a pre-hire folder, and you documentate everything. That way, if the IRS come and they want to audit any of this, you got documentation to prove. This is a job description. You can even go on Indeed.com and you can compare what they're saying. You can print that out, and that way you got documentation saying, hey, this is how much Indeed, and documentation that if they were working out there, then this is what I'm paying them to clean my office space. That's my business. Or if you're an Uber driver, you're self-employed. You can employ your child to wash your car and to gas up your car. And you just write that up and you make it appropriate to the amount that they are receiving. And that way they have earned income. And once they have earned income, then they can go ahead and now fund their Custodial Roth IRA. So you as the parent, you are employing your child under your business. And the beautiful thing is, and you got to get with a tax advisor on this. Once again, always get with a tax advisor or CPA. I'm just giving informational stuff that's been working because I've been working it. And so you can do your research on your own, but take the information and go and seek out professional help, such as a professional tax advisor, and also a CPA. And but anyway, you can go ahead and open up I would open up a bank account in the child's name, and that way when you pay them, it goes straight into their bank account. And then I would go ahead and open up a Custodial Roth IRA. You're the custodian parent. You're not there to spend the money, but you're the custodian, and you're there to ensure that the money is getting, things are working, because they're not at age, they're not considered an adult, 18 and above. Once they reach 18, whatever money is contributed, it goes into no longer a custodial Roth IRA. It's now there for that child to manage it. That's why we're training these children as we go. And I would also put skin in the game for them, meaning you can fully fund it. Anyone can fund it up until the amount that they make for that year. So that if they only made $2,000 for that year, That's the most that can be contributed to that Roth IRA. Um, so just remember that, and also the max for this year that can be contributed is $6,500. That's for the year 2023. If you're watching this video in a different time frame, so in every year it's been going up just depending on the inflation rate. So we talked about employing your child under your business, doing a job, doing not an application, but doing a job description. And we talked about setting up their own bank account. So when you pay them directly, then they can now, that money that's going into their bank account, they can fund their Roth IRA. And there's a couple of methods, and I've already talked about one. You can fund it for them. Say they make $2,400, not thousand, $2,400, that you can fully fund it and just let them have the money. But the way I would do it, so they can have skin in the game and they can watch and understand that they gotta be able to manage these resources. You may want to do a match. You put in half of it. Mom and dad will put in half of it, or as grandparents will put in half of it. Let's get everybody in the game so we can build legacy wealth right now while we're living versus laying it up and then give it to them. Because the beauty of this is once the money goes in, it's never taxed again. And if this child is making less than $12,000, this is year 2023, less than $13,850, that child technically does not have to file income taxes on that money. So that child is not even paying taxes to fund this Roth IRA. No taxes going in because they're making under that amount. But once they make over $13,850, they're going to have to file a tax return. But under that, they do not. That's according to the IRS tax code. So let's look at that. So you can go ahead and fully fund this. And the thing what I like to do is to get to a point where we set out the goal, and then we're going to reach those milestones. So let's look at some numbers here real quick. So we've already employed our child. It's a legitimate business. You've done all that paperwork. We're not going to discuss that. Whatever the business is, it's legitimate, and you're doing what you need to do with your tax advisor as a business owner and a CPA, and everything's legit. Get with them first, and you set that up. You set up the child's bank account, and now you're setting up the Roth IRA. And I've already talked about Fidelity. Going to fidelity.com. I believe their system is the easiest to navigate. I have funds in Vanguard, which is really my top one based off its principle and how it was set up. Fidelity's good, and you also got Charles Schwab. Those have index funds, which have the lowest fees. And when you're looking at building this wealth, you always want to have low fees to manage the money. So I like index funds, and we'll talk about that more. And FZROX is one that I would recommend. It was established in 2018 and under Fidelity. FZROX is a total stock market for like 4,100 companies like Facebook, Apple, Amazon, and all the 4,100s that are allowed to be in this index. So it's a total stock market. I would set that up and set it and forget it. And say, for instance, a child is 5 years old. Let's do some hard numbers here. And you invest $200. That's $2,400 that child's got to earn, $2,400 for that year. That sounds reasonable. 5 years old, do a good job description and making sure that, the child is performing those duties. So say, for instance, they put in $100. You put in $100. That's $200 a month. That's $2,400 a year. And you do that monthly, and you said, okay, I'm only going to do this for a few years. So you say, I'll do this up until the age of 10. And once they get to age of 10, based off of our 12% compound interest or compound growth, with that $200, that will turn out to be $15,246 in that account. And you can stop investing. That child is 10 years old. And once again, it's in the Roth IRA, meaning that when that child goes to pull that money out, they're not taxed on that money because they technically will be paying taxes on it going in, but because their taxes hold, they don't even have to file a tax return on the federal. Now, the state may be, you have to check into those laws, but you can check into both of them. Once again, federal, if they make less than $13,850 for the year of 2023, they technically do not have to file a tax return, and that's for anyone. So $200 a month, age of 5, and invest all the way up to the age of 10. That's $15,000 and some change based off of 12% compound growth. And you stop investing at that time, which we never recommend. But say you want to stop. Child can continue if they want to, but you say, you know what, this is how much I'm going to do for my living legacy. And then that child allows that money to sit there from the age of 10 to the age of 60. That's 50 years. Now, at 59 and a half, they can start taking that money out of the Roth account without any early withdrawal penalties. All right? So they got 50 years for that compound interest. 50 years. You know how much that money will be at the age of 60? $4.4 million just by operating this simple principle now to employ your child, to start the Roth IRA, Custodial ROTH IRA, to invest at least $200 a month at 12%, and I like 12% because my funds, the index funds, they've been doing more than that. So I just averaged it out to 12%. A lot of people say, "Oh, that's high. That's not reasonable." But drop it down to 10%. Drop down to 7%, and you do the math on it. Go to investor.gov and do the compound interest on it. But you'll probably still be a multimillionaire at the age of 60, where you can start drawing that money out. Once again, if you went at 12% interest, that's $4.4 million at 12% interest. Say, for instance, you want to continue that money. This is where we really get crazy. And the child never goes up, even once they start making a lot of money. Now, I will say that at some point, once they become a high income earner, they can no longer contribute to their Roth IRA. Right now, this year, if you make $153,000 and above, you cannot contribute 1 penny to your Roth IRA as an adult or even as a child. That's just $153,000 you cannot contribute to your Roth IRA, period. So let's go back. So at 10 years old, this child wants to continue doing 200. You say, okay, you do what you do, boo-boo. That's on you. And they continue, and they never go up, regardless of how much money they make. Now, they're cruising. This is the good part. They're cruising. $200 a month, and you let it grow for the next 50 years until they're 60. That money grows to $10 million, once again, at 12% interest. But once again, I need to make sure that you guys are working with a tax advisor and a CPA, so we can make sure everything is legitimate. You got your legitimate business, you employ your child, you got your child's bank account, you're funding a bank account because they're earning income, and they're making $2,400 on our example here. That's $200 a month, whether you fund it all or grandparents fund it. Or you have them have some skin in the game and say, well, you need to contribute at least 50, and I'll do 150. And say, or you say, I'm gonna match dollar for dollar. If you do 100, I'll do 100. That way, they got $100 for that month to do whatever they need to do. And once again, this is just one vehicle. There's other brokerage accounts that they can have. I call it grow the gap fund. So you got this money that you have before they can start pulling this money out without being penalized. There's strategies on that as well, because you can pull out the principal at any time. That's the contribution that you put in without the compound growth at any time and not be penalized at all or pay taxes because you already did that. So just want to share that with you guys, and I just look forward to any comments or feedback, so that we can continue this wealth building for the family. Talk to y'all later.